This is a city. Some call it Denton, Texas.
We call it ReaperLand.
Wow, I really got to get that intro fixed with the where it says Reaper Dave. Reaper Dave hasn't been on here in weeks. Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Reaper Jon. As you guys know, I'm here every week, every Friday. But it looks like we got a lot of new chatters in chat. I see. I'm assuming these are a lot of the. What do you guys call them in your Discord? Do you guys have like a name for your people?
Tentatively Scapers. We're figuring that out. I know that RuneScape also has Scapers, so we're not trying to tread too much, but I like Scapers.
Step on anybody's toes. Welcome everybody. We call our people, I've been calling them Reaperites. We call them Reaperites. Scalpers. Nice. Hi everyone.
Scalpers. That's not bad.
It's Friday. It's ReaperLand. It's our community show here over on Reaper Miniatures Twitch channel. We just hang out and look at people's paint jobs and just mess around with all kinds of new stuff. Everybody knows me. I like to embrace new technologies and new processes and new things, especially when all this stuff happened over the past couple of years, along with these guys doing a bunch of new stuff. So I'm going to introduce them. I believe this is Eric up here on your top left, and then Grant. Grant, who are you and what's going on?
Yeah, I am Grant Anderson. I am the CEO of Mirrorscape, and I'm the one that hatched this harebrained idea about 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. Our Mirrorscape platform to enable you to play in augmented reality tabletop games on your actual tabletop.
Yeah. And then we'll talk more about that in a second, but Eric, and you are?
Yeah, I'm Eric. I hang out with the community and get to build cool, fun stuff. I've got the best job at the company as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, I just threw this together earlier today. This is a nice display of all of the Reaper minis that we have in the platform, all hanging out here on our red carpet.
Yeah. And Eric will look at a few of those as me and I guess Grant will start talking. And as we go on throughout this stream, Eric's going to be building stuff behind us and showing off maps and things like that as we're just kind of just chilling and hanging out on this Friday. This nice fall Friday. I'm assuming the weather is over there great in California, I'm assuming, still?
Not fall. It is 92 degrees right now here in West Hollywood.
Oh, is that normal?
So pretty yeah, September, October is pretty hot. Like it's kind of like they call it the Indian summer. It's like really, really warm.
It's getting cold here in Texas.
Nice. But you have a fall. Like we don't really, I guess we have a fall. Like it's cooler and like the leaves change and they don't fall off the trees, which is nice. So it's when it gets cooler, like probably around November, then that's kind of our fall.
Okay, so Grant, how did this all come about and why did it all start?
Yeah, so I have been playing Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder and all these fun games like way back from the very beginning, like from when it first came out in the 70s. Since I was like 7 years old. And so love tabletop games, just like love it. I've always loved it. But, as time goes on, it gets really hard to play, right? Like you're trying to get everybody together and, you get older, you go to school, you get married, you have kids, you get a job. It's like a nightmare, right? And so I was looking for a way to try to, be able to play these more regularly. And this was about 4.5 years ago now at this time. And I looked around and not a lot of people were doing it, right? There was Roll20 was basically the only one, and maybe Fantasy Grounds. And so I looked at those and I'm like, these aren't that great. Like they're very flat, right? It's like watching on this Twitch screen. It's like watching a Zoom call and I'm sitting on my desk and I feel like I'm at work, and it's like driving me nuts. So, they got a lot of great content and, it's good for what it does in terms of 2D, but I'm like, so I used to work at Apple. I was a software engineer there on their media team and used to work on, back in the mid-90s, a project called QuickTime VR, which is where virtual reality kind of started with being able to stitch together still images and walk through these environments on your computer over, sold on CD-ROMs really at the time. So really kind of became like enamored with the technology. So long story short, I worked in film and entertainment here in LA for the last 25 years, gaming too. And the last 10 years, I've been working in virtual and augmented reality. So doing big location-based experiences, like for Marvel, I was working with Marvel on their Avengers Damage Control experience, which is amazing. And then at the Void locations. And then How to Train Your Dragon flight school experience with Dreamscape Immersive. If you have a Dreamscape near you should go see it. These are the big things where you go and you pay, like $20, you put the computer on your back and you walk through these amazing, like really high-end, crazy things, right?
Yeah.
So that's at the high end, but all the while in the back of my head, it was like this technology, and particularly the augmented reality technology that was coming, and I knew what Apple was up to. I almost went back to work on their headset, the one that just came, the one that was just announced, the Apple Vision Pro. And I'm like, this is going to change the way, it's going to change the world, but also it's going to change the way games can be played, right? Because now we can play remotely, but still have that authentic nature of what it's like to play these games. And so I looked around there, I thought somebody must be doing this for sure, and nobody was. So I wanted to be the first one there, on these headsets that were going to be coming out. And so 4 years ago, Christmas, you hear about all these startups in the garages. Well, mine was actually at my mother's kitchen table at Christmas. So I was sitting there and I'm like, kind of dove into Unity. Unity is a game engine that we develop all this in. There's Unreal and Unity are the two biggest game engines, and just started, programming this up. And I'm like, it started to become so cool. Eric was actually the first one that I ever showed it to. We had a mutual friend, and he knew that we both liked D&D, and so so we met at a bar, and I'm like, hey, take a look at this. And he was like, holy crap, this is amazing. He's like, oh my God, I got to be involved in this. And so, knew we were onto something. We started to show it to more and more people. And then my co-founder, Don Bland, who I worked with at Sony Pictures, we had always kept in touch, and I'm like, you got to see this. And so I showed it to him. He's like, oh my God, this is amazing. We have to start a company. And so Mirrorscape was born about 2.5 years ago. But it's all out of desire to, utilize this new technology that's coming up. These headsets are going to absolutely change the game. They're kind of expensive right now. Apple Vision Pro is like $3,500. So obviously the price needs to come down. But the technology just shows you what's possible. And it's absolutely amazing to have this authentic experience around the tabletop together and still having the best of role-playing games by being able to see each other in augmented reality. And, those people that can't make it can beam in remotely, and you see them around your table where they are around theirs. So you can all play together. You can all play remotely. God forbid we have another COVID situation, or you can do a hybrid situation. So it's all about, 3D assets and using Reaper minis and, pieces and terrain that people already use and know and love, and making absolute one-to-one digital replicas of those.
Yeah, it's just the next step. And there, there's going to be so many things that we talk about, but obviously, Reaper's been around for 30 years, and
I know, I've been playing your minis that
long. we did metal models for a long time. I've only been at Reaper for 13 years, but in that time, obviously now 3D printers are much faster. The technology is just getting better and faster and things like that, and there's no reason that Reaper in the past has always kind of been a slow ship to turn to try to adopt new things. And in relation to Mirrorscape itself and Reaper models and things, I think they jumped on it pretty quickly. I think we joined pretty early.
Yeah.
Whenever you guys messaged us, it took a little convincing to the older guys, to the older gentlemen of Reaper, but because they don't quite understand it all, but.
Once you see a demo, I say seeing is believing, and you see the demo, and everybody's like, "Holy cow! Okay, now I get." There's a paradigm shift at foot.
Yeah, and so it's going to be exciting to see what we can do. And me and Eric have been talking, and I've been talking to Trip a lot about doing some shows, and maybe we can run some campaigns and doing things with Mirrorscape as things progress. Because I know you guys are in beta, or you just got out of beta and you just went into your PC beta, I believe.
Yeah, so we did a Kickstarter April of last year. And so all those people who backed us were in the closed beta for about 8 months. And then we just opened it up to everybody else, open beta at the end of July. So just over the last 2 months ago. And so we are on iOS, Android, phones and tablets, PC and Mac now. So totally cross-platform, and you can play however you like between those, whatever device you've got. And obviously, augmented reality is absolutely wicked cool. So if you're on mobile, you can project these down on your actual tabletop. A lot of people prefer the PC or Mac for building, as Eric is doing here in the background feverishly, because you got a bigger screen and mouse and keyboard commands, stuff like that. But you can still, everything is feature parity across both devices, or I should say mostly feature parity. We've got some features that are actually in the PC now that we're going to be pushing back to mobile, but pretty much you can use whatever device you like.
Exactly. I just put all the links in chat as well. So if anybody out there wants to start building or start messing around with Mirrorscape, go check it out on whatever platform you want. All the links are there.
Just to note real quick, we do have free Reaper minis. So when you download the application, you will get 5 free Reaper minis. Is it 5 or?
I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's 5. Yeah.
5, yeah.
So you will get to immediately see the Reaper minis right in the application, and then you can download more.
And you get some free terrain and stuff like that too as well, so you can start building stuff you're seeing here behind Eric. And you also get a 30-day free trial of everything, so you can try any of the assets you like for 30 days.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that. That's cool. Because I've been messing around with it for a little while. If you guys, I'm a big Discord person, and I know Eric is as well. I see his name everywhere. But I love going over to y'all's map area on the Discord where everybody's sharing all the maps they made and things like that, and talking about that. So I enjoy seeing what everybody's creating, especially how easy it is for people to build something and then upload it to the hub. And then you can go look at all the stuff, and you can be like, well, I'm running a game tonight and I need a witch's hut in the swamp or something like that. And you just go download it and then hit the button and
so we started on Discord, right, with our big Discord, which is still a fantastic community for us. Our community is just amazing, just like yours. And we started there sharing maps, but then we built this social hub. So again, part of when I was growing up, part of the problem is trying to find people to play with, right?
Mhm.
And so we created this hub to solve the problem on the platform for players to find game masters and game masters to find players to find games, and DMs to find maps. So all of this stuff, there's now this social hub that's connected to it. We're going to be integrating it more and more tightly as time goes on with lots of cool ideas. But you can go to hub.mirrorscape.com right now, and it's the same sign in as you would use for the app. And so you're logged into one, you're logged into the other. But you can go in there, and there's a maps tab on the left, and you go in there, you can see all the maps that everybody's creating. So that's kind of our hub now for that stuff. And yeah, any of those you see, you can go in and say, add to my map manager or open in Mirrorscape, and it'll launch right up onto your tabletop.
Mm-hmm. And you see somebody in chat, Tess the Wanderer said that there is a game tonight, Golden Keys. They said they have room for more if anybody's interested. So if you just want to
Yeah, I mean, you should go and sign up. It's super fun. Hi, Tess.
Yeah, Tess is one of our fantastic moderators on Discord. And the Golden Keys, I believe that's the heist one. So they run like a heist game every week, and it's super fun. And I think, Tess, you can let me know if I'm wrong, but I believe that the previous sessions are actually uploaded on YouTube for people to check out if you kind of want to see how they play in Mirrorscape and how the heist adventures go for them. But it's very cool. I've checked them out. They're super fun.
Kind of sounds very escape roomy, which I love escape rooms. So I'm down.
Yeah, we got some really fantastic creators and game runners, and we're very fortunate.
Nice. Let's see. Oh, go ahead.
I've always said, like, some of the maps, like, just speaking of that, like, years ago when I had this in my mind to create, I'm like, and you go and you figure out how you think, like, what Eric is doing right here, like, he's mashing up tiles, right? Originally, when I prototyped it, I kept it to a very strict grid, right? Where you could only lay out, because that's how I thought people would want to build, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out like we hadn't enabled that yet, or we loosened it, and Eric started coming up with all these crazy creations like this, and I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. And so we left it this way, so you can mash up and create all these different structures and outcroppings and things that you never would be able to do in real life, obviously, because you're not dealing with physical objects.
Yeah.
So it's always amazing to see. I always knew this would be the case, but it's blowing my mind even beyond that in terms of what people would create with this tool, right? So just seeing what Eric has created and is creating right now, and then all these people on our hub and on the Discord that have created these amazing maps and components for other people to use, it just blows my mind. You're like, I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, that's a smart thing, especially because when you want to create something that's very robust and deep, having things to be able to be mashed up like this, because I know that you guys, a lot of the tiles, Eric was showing me this on Monday, I think, all these tiles are square, but you can do some tricks and some things to kind of rotate them in certain ways and line them up, and you can make a circle.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of things you can do like that, especially with the verticality of stacking things in a certain way to make them look like steps or things like that. And that really alleviates, you don't have to have like a step, like stairs STL in per se. You still can, but it's like you can, if you're smart enough and you're intuitive enough, or if somebody figures it out and uploads it, you can just, yoink.
Yeah, and people
absolutely.
And the floor tiles and making your own stairs, right?
Yeah.
We do offer amazing flexibility with, I'll show you, for example, I just did it earlier, but if you need to get a piece and needs to be a little bit bigger to represent something else that maybe is gigantic or whatnot, we do have like a scaling option now. So you can really, scale your mini in there. And you've gone from having a large to a gigantic creature, or you can really, the customization, like this piece right here originally is about this big down here, but I wanted to use it as like a walkway onto this swamp, so I just kept making it bigger and bigger until it was the size that I needed it to be for my purposes. So yeah, since that feature's been added, there's a ton of flexibility. I've created entire dungeons encounters using very few pieces with that flexibility, so that people can start to enjoy these maps at a much lower entry. So it's super fun, and the creative ways that people come up with to make stuff always blows my mind, and I learn every day from our community how to do it better. And it's super fun. And if you enjoyed playing SimCity back in the day, that's what I always go to, because I played so much, and it really does just feel like that. And it's that Zen creation
Yeah,
mentality
that's
that
what
you
I was
kind of
just
find
about to
yourself
say.
in.
It's like watching you work is very meditative, and it kind of reminds me of. I was joking about this the other day. What's the guy who's the fluffy little clouds?
Oh,
Bob.
Bob Ross.
Bob Ross, yeah.
It's
I
like
feel like Bob
Eric
Ross
is the
sometimes.
Bob Ross of Mirrorscape.
The new Discord
Only
title.
when I'm building. Otherwise, I'm very high strung.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
And I see what you're doing here. You're just making layers, right? You're creating like
Yeah, so I'll
different
show you guys
elevations.
afterwards what this map is based on, but
Mhm.
I think some of you might actually recognize it once I
Yeah.
reveal what it is. I
Yeah.
don't know if
Let's see if
we
anybody in
want to
the
tell people
chat
yet,
can
but
guess what it is before it's
let's
revealed.
see if the Reaper fans recognize it.
It's a deep cut. It goes back a couple of years, but you'll get it, I think.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's
So you'd
it's
have to
pretty old.
really know the deal if you were to guess.
Mm-hmm. I know
So-
earlier this year we had ReaperCon. It was about a month ago. And I was talking to the Mirrorscape guys, particularly Trip, about seeing ReaperCon stuff this year, but it just couldn't get done in time for this most recent ReaperCon. But I really want next year, for next year's ReaperCon, I want to have a whole section, like a corner of the hall dedicated to a table with a bunch of iPads, so people can come and build and people can come and play. I think that would be fun. Have a whole little Mirrorscape corner
Yeah,
of the
absolutely.
main hall.
Do you want to tell them
That'd
about
be
our
fun.
GaryCon experience, Grant?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we were at GaryCon, and I think that was it was the second time that we had been out on a show floor with it.
Mhm.
Had a booth, had a bunch of people by. We had exactly that, a table with a bunch of iPads around. Couple of interesting stories from that event. So I'm standing there, talking to somebody about the product, and then all of a sudden this little kid zooms right in between us and like goes near the iPad, and I look and there's nothing on the virtual table that like Eric is building on here yet. And so I'm having this conversation. It was like about 2, 3, 4 minutes long, and I turn over and the kid's got a whole village built already. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, so that's just like, is it easy enough to use? I'm like, well, God, this kid just built this whole village, right? Like it was insane. Then he found, so we have a feature called Life Scale, which you can take this and blow it up to life size.
Mhm.
So in augmented reality, you can literally walk around your creation. You can walk down your village street. You can walk down the dungeon corridor.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Yep. And so this kid like finds Life Scale and like takes the iPad and starts running down the hallway with it, and like his mom freaks out, goes running after him, is like grabbing his hood because he's like running into people. So just like it's so fun to be being at these conventions and seeing like the joy on people's faces, right, with like something that we've all built. So it's pretty amazing. And I should note, like, we have an absolutely amazing team. It's not just Eric and I. Obviously, we have amazing developers and product manager. And you mentioned Trip a lot, and sales and marketing. And of course, my co-founder, Don Bland, has been amazing. But anyways, like these shows are really great. A lot of our backers were there. So like, oh yeah, I back Mirrorscape. And it's like the first time they got to see it in real life before we released it. So we love being at those shows.
A lot of good notes and stuff, I'm assuming, that they gave you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, well, they're still, it was still kind of early, so they're still trying to wrap their heads around it.
Yeah.
So, our Kickstarter backers and our closed beta users are now everybody. We have a feedback button in the app, so you can go in there and it lets you up-rank things and add new stuff. So we get bug fixes or bug reports and feature requests in there. So yeah, we're getting lots of great feedback through that. A lot of the stuff, obviously, we know, like stuff that we want as well. But then there's always like these new things like, oh yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. That's cool. So yeah, we're getting great feedback from our community. The beta, closed beta, and now.
No, sorry, Grant. No, I'd say we've definitely solved some problems using the help of our Discord members. So that's been very cool as well. Where we're just trying to come up with something or a solution for an issue, and then someone in Discord will just figure it out and be like, oh yeah, that's fantastic. It's been a super like helpful resource, and we're extremely fortunate. I've probably said that 10 times, but I'll probably say it again. There we go.
That's definitely true. That's for sure.
There was another example just now of you using the really smart technique of burying like things halfway
Yeah,
in.
I know that's crazy. I hadn't seen that either. Like, it's just, I love watching him do this stuff because he does this more than anybody else at the company. It's crazy.
Yeah, you took a
It's
whole
so much
square and
fun.
turned it
Like,
into just a log.
This is so much cheaper than therapy.
That's what people say about
Yeah.
painting minis. A lot of people that paint minis. they use
Yeah,
it
yeah,
as
exactly. I feel like
Mhm.
I feel like it's a similar feeling.
You just kind of zone out.
Yeah, even just watching it, like it is very meditative.
Okay. I see some people talking in chat, some of our people and some of your people. Somebody said show the wind effects, but then a Cranky Dog, one of our community members, said, "Oh, I did not expect the animated fire." So I can that's a good transition. I know I talked to Eric a little bit about it, and he mentioned to me that because I asked about like waterfalls and different water effects and things like that, and I know a main philosophy of y'all company is that you don't want it to turn into kind of feeling like a video game. Like you want it to still kind of feel like you're playing around the table and things like that. And I know that this kind of borders almost along that line of video gamifying it all. But if you want to talk a little bit about that, let's start with Grant.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think so. Again, my philosophy has always been like wanting to keep the authentic nature of this game, right? Like, you know, we have these great minis of yours. We have this great terrain. We're working with Dwarven Forge and Fat Dragon Games for terrain right now. Really cool stuff, and we want to keep it, looking realistic and authentic. And so that's kind of been the main goal. However, because we're digital, we can take advantage of some fun things. Like, you just saw the creature, the rock flying up above. Right? You don't have gravity, so we can put things up and you can build crazy big things you've never been able to build and all of that. And so we can also do weather effects and we can do running water and all of that stuff. So we are going to add that stuff in, but we definitely don't want to turn it into a video game, right? So I always call it the digital sweetening layer is what I call it, right? Like we can sweeten things up a little bit, maybe some spell effects, right? We've got some wind in there, we've got some running water, we've got some burning fire, like fun things that you can do.
Yeah.
And of course, we are going to give you the ability to turn all that stuff off too if you don't like it, and in the future change the color of your light or change the intensity and like all those different things.
Options is always the way to go. I've learned in my 30 years of playing video games that the more options you give, the better it's going to be, because it's like you can't please everybody, but you can have options that will please everybody. So I think that's a good way to go.
Yeah, it's just harder. It takes a lot longer.
Yeah, it takes a lot longer.
Program. So yeah, I mean,
if they don't like it, it's their own fault.
Yeah, it's like you just turn it off. But and then so that goes along with the next thing is the lighting. I guess if you want to turn down the light a little bit to show off that campfire.
Sure.
This is kind of one of the cool things, especially like a lot of people that build villages and you have your torches hanging on the outside of shops, or maybe you're setting up a scene where your players they're settling down for the night and they're setting up camp. You can swap to this scene and then they have this animated campfire that's actually has illumination in it, which is pretty neat. And you can change the intensity of that, I think, or it's just how dark it is.
The size of it. Right. It just depends on how dark it is. It'll get up, but it does show. You will see the light from the fire bouncing off the characters here. So you do see that illumination.
Yeah, it's pretty cool too. If you have like some of your minis that have shields and stuff, you'll see reflections off of the shields and glints off of those. So it's pretty wicked.
They have metallic shaders and stuff on them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nice OS. Yeah, all of our painter people in chat, they're going to give you guys natural OSL. It's a big painting technique called object source lighting. It's always a big thing in the painting world where you can paint something that has a light source. So now,
yeah, absolutely.
And this, they can give it to you automatically.
Yeah, we give a lot of stuff automatically. There's a way to bake it in. We did that originally, but now that we have increased our performance, we're actually able to do it for real. Like since we're in a game engine, right? Like we can do that for real, and it looks much better.
Hey Grant, these are a lot of the painters in here might be curious about the process and how we do it in the back end with was it Substance Painter and some Blender and some other applications. You want to chat about that a little bit?
I'm curious about that as well.
If that resonates.
Yeah,
with
totally.
anyone.
Yeah, so it's interesting the way. So when I prototyped all of this, obviously it was very early on. And so what I first grabbed was actually the Fat Dragon terrain because it was all accessible as 3D printed files online. So I just bought it and took it and then developed this pipeline to see if I could take those, get it in, and what it would look like in augmented reality without having to model all my own stuff. So took those and then developed this pipeline. So they're all STL files, and most everything that we deal with, same thing with your Reaper Minis, is grabbing those STL files and then putting them through a post-processing pipeline. So we take it and then we remesh it. So what that will do is it'll take, when these are sculpted in like ZBrush or something, they're like, can be 15 million polygons, which not even a PC are going to be able to have many of those characters. So certainly not on mobile or in augmented reality, and certainly not in headsets where you have to render it for each eye separately every single frame, 60 to 90 frames per second. So we have to reduce that stuff. And so we have this remeshing pipeline where we can remesh it and take those 15 million poly models and reduce them down to about 1,000 polys or even less, 500 to 1,000 polys. And then you'll have what we call LODs, or level of details. So you'll have a like 1,000 poly one, and then maybe you'll have a 500 poly one, and then maybe you'll have a 100 poly one. And those automatically, as part of the process, get what's called UVs, which lets you texture paint it, and those are shared across those. So when you're up close, you'll have the higher resolution version where you're going to see more detail, and when it's further back, it automatically swaps them for these lower polygonal model counts, so you're not rendering all those polygons every single frame for performance purposes. So once we have that, then we hand that to our painters, our digital painters, and then they paint mostly in a program called Substance Painter, which is now owned by Adobe, of course. And that lets you paint in 3D. So you can 3D paint all these models. And it's really cool because there's all kinds of, textures and shaders and operators that you can put on there. And what we're trying to do, again, to keep that authentic game, is to develop this. We develop those techniques in the painter program and those operators to mimic real life paint. So you get, dry brushing or washes and things like that. So you get some of the darkness down in the crevices. So we're really trying to recreate, the realistic nature of painting, which isn't to say that, we're not going to experiment in the future. The whole thing is, and what was in the original prototype, is all this stuff can be skinned. So we're going to have multiple skins eventually available for all these things. So anybody will be able to paint one of these minis, or one of our artists will be able to paint one of these minis 5 different ways. One may look like, a totally flat, like cartoony kind of thing. And one may be completely hyper realistic. They can have all these different treatments. We've got some really cool ideas for some retro looking stuff that we can do. So yeah, once it's painted, then we pop it into Unity. There's a few more things you need to do to get it into the application. And then we upload it as what's called an addressable or downloadable content, so that whenever you get one of these guys, just download it up.
Yeah. That'd be interesting, because I asked Eric, I think it was one of the questions that I asked him was about future editions. And I was like, what happens if somebody, wants to upload their own STL or take one of your STLs and paint it? I'm assuming that's way down the future, if that's even a thing that's possible, that they could paint it themselves.
Yeah, yes. So the whole idea is we want to let people paint their own minis in here. That's always been a big thing of ours. So definitely want to do that. This is looking really cool, Eric. Definitely.
Thanks.
Definitely want this when you're done. So save that to the map manager.
It'll definitely be in the hub.
You're welcome, guys.
So anybody out there who wants this at the end can go onto the hub and download Mirrorscape and grab this map. It's pretty freaking cool with all the water. So we want people to be able to paint. We've got some really cool ideas for that, to be able to paint in augmented reality, and then share those paint schemes, all their paint jobs, with everybody who's got the mini. So those are coming. As far as bringing your own stuff, that's a huge request. It's also very difficult because, again, what we would need to do, and we're not opposed to this, but we would need to provide a back-end service that you would upload your minis and would post-process them, and then you would have to know how to paint them. And so it's a little, it's a little difficult.
Yeah. It's way down the line.
So there's other ways to do it now. Yeah, it's a little bit further down the line, but it's also there's way cooler ways and easier ways of doing it now, right? So we've
Yeah.
got some really great ideas on ways to bring real world objects into your games. Of course, making those available to other people, then we run into, copyright problems and all of that fun legal stuff. But
Mhm.
I think there's ways to do it. So we've got a lot of cool ideas around that. But yes, the idea is to
Neat.
let people bring more of their own objects into this world as well.
There you go. Well, I think that's a good thing. And then another question is just another observation. I think it's cool that Mirrorscape allows you to play all kinds of different ways. Because I mentioned earlier this week in our other meeting, I was like, hey, because I know a lot of people play with TVs inside their tables, like their gaming tables. That's been a big popular thing the past couple of years, where people just download maps or whatever and they have them playing on their TVs. And Eric was explaining to me that a lot of people that use Mirrorscape as references or things like that, describing, they use them as like reference tools. Like for instance, if you have a TV up on your wall and you're explaining, like you're setting up for camp and you're surrounded by a swamp, kind of a thing, you're explaining it and then you pull it up on the TV and you can kind of see a physical representation of it, which I think is cool. So I think that's really cool that you can do it all kinds of different ways.
Yeah, you can. There is so again, you can play in augmented reality, or you can do what Eric is doing right now. This is what we call lean back mode, because you can literally just lean back and play on your couch, which is just on your iPad or your phone or on your PC or whatever. But you play in these virtual environments. This is actually the Hall of Heroes, which is pretty cool because this was for our Kickstarter backers. So you can actually walk down the halls. Eric can go down and show them. Portrait.
This is embarrassing, Grant, but that's not available on the PC version yet.
Oh, right. Forget where we're at.
Put me on the spot, Grant.
Yeah, exactly. So
and this just came out, the PC version, right? Just came out this week.
Right. Yeah, we're technically in just gotten to open beta with the PC version, so there's gonna be a lot of stuff like that. But it's super fun. It's really beyond expectations at this point, honestly.
Yeah, and so anyways, in the Hall of Heroes on mobile and soon to be on PC, you can actually walk down the hallways, and we have there was a special backer tier, the highest end backer tier, where they could send in their portrait and we put them into the Hall of Heroes. So everybody's portrait that did the highest tier is in there down those hallways. So that's pretty cool. But let's see, what was the original question? What'd you ask? Oh,
I was just saying that it was cool that you can use it for all kinds of different things. Putting it on the walls, putting it on TVs, references, even augmented reality, what it was built for.
Yeah, and I was just saying, so you can play in these virtual environments too, so you don't have to do that if you don't want to. But another really cool thing that we're going to be releasing soon, this thing called Mirrorscape Labs, where we have experimental features that we're just throwing out there to see how people like them. So there's some really cool stuff coming out from that. But one of the things that we're looking at is you can do camera keyframes. So you can go in and set your camera and then and fly the camera between all those, so you can create animations.
Oh, yeah.
So you can actually do, if you're not using it as a battle map, just like you were talking about, you could create this and have this basically interstitial scene, and then you can cast it up to your TV or onto their devices. It'll, the DM will be able to trigger it on their devices and have it there or up on your TV if you want to cast it with AirPlay or something. So you can also use it for theater of the mind and interstitials, or like even new uses like, creating like fantasy narratives, creating all these scenes and creating stories, and then, giving people tools to be able to screencast and share this on Twitch and other things. So lots of cool stuff.
Nice. Yeah. I'm going to take a small break real quick because I need to use the restroom. But anything that you guys want to talk about, maybe Eric, you can kind of explain kind of what you're talking. I should be back in like 1 minute, but
yeah, go ahead, man. Take your time. No problem. Yeah, I'm just wrapping up right here. I kind of got the base of what I did finish, and I'm just kind of what I'll do is I'll look around for stuff that kind of looks like it's not organic or doesn't match, and I'll put these little Band-Aid pieces on. So I did this because there was this harsh corner right here. The side of this terrain piece right here, and we have this really cool Dwarven Forge like foliage thing. I think it's what's the piece called? The piece is called, it's like a thorn patch. Yeah, so I'll just take these thorn patches and kind of put them on top of anything that doesn't look right, and I'll just drop them in, and then it gives it more of a less of a, yeah, exactly, thank you. And then so I'll just kind of go around and do this and kind of add that to make it look more organic and I just think this piece right here is really cool. This little fairy ring. So I'm gonna put it around this rock right here, make it a little smaller, and drop it down into it. So it just kind of like looks like it's growing around this stone here. And then I don't really
So
love this side right here, so I'll do the same thing. Actually, put this over here. Yeah,
the
just kind
water
of
looks amazing.
I know it looks really cool now, right? We're trying to figure out how to make it look swampy, and I was trying to. I initially had dropped the water into this and then made it bigger, but it didn't look right. So I do like the approach that we have here, where it's on top of the swamp, and you can kind of see how it looks
Yeah.
green, and you can see the leaves that would be under it and whatnot. But let's I think we should give our guys here a little tent.
I'm back.
Let's see.
I think you should
Welcome back.
save this and
We took over.
make sure you
Yeah.
on Eric.
I have
We
been
don't lose
saving.
it.
Save early, save often
Yes.
is a motto of ours. There we go.
We are still in beta. So.
I know. It's been so steady that I find myself building for like hours. I'm like, oh my goodness, I haven't saved in so long. I better do that real quick because we're still in beta. But you just get used to it performing as well as it has.
Yeah, from a sculptor's point of view, that's what you want to do that very often, because sometimes you
Oh
can get really
gosh,
far
yeah.
and you're like, oh, got to redo that whole
Yeah.
armor piece again or something like that.
Exactly.
Anything like that.
Mhm.
That's just tortures. If
You guys
lose
don't
that
have
kind of
that.
stuff.
You don't have that luxury with the with physical painting.
Yeah, and you can't control Z.
There's no
if you
undo
miss it.
either.
Yeah, I'm sure there's paint thinner, but that probably doesn't help. It probably makes it worse than.
Yeah, most people use simple green, but if you do that, you're going to be stripping the whole model, not just particular pieces. So,
All right, let's put some Reaper monsters up in here. Let's see.
I could talk about this
Yeah.
piece that you've built.
Yeah, I think I'm done. I could keep. I might overproduce it if I do much more though.
Okay. Back when we were doing our Dungeon Dweller RPG, our new role-playing game that's coming out soon, our rule set and everything like that, we ran a campaign with Reaper Wolf. It's one of the guy who's designing it, and he's our writer, our Reaper writer. He did this really cool scene where the players came across a horse that was like in the woods, and he was like, it was like muddy and it was raining, and the horse was obviously very smart. We deduced that it was, it was a very smart horse, and it kind of led the players back to a grove or like a little opening in the swamp. And there was a dead knight on a tree stump, and we found out that the horse belonged to this knight, and the horse came to get help, and it came to get us. And there was the knight was attacked by ogres in the middle of the night, and it was a really cool scene with some demon frogs that came out and attacked us and things like that. And I just thought it's always kind of stuck with me when we were doing the playtest, because I thought it was a cool moment. And so that's kind of what Eric has built here. We use this map right here. We drew it as a drawn map.
That was this is the instructions I have. This is my layout that I've been building off of. I've been referencing that this lovely map right here.
Square grid.
Eric, you've taken some
Yeah.
artistic license. I like it.
A little bit, yeah. I feel like it went in the right direction. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, Wolf
You said
is
ogres, right?
Yeah. And he's a very old school. He loves to draw just because he changes things on the fly. And not to go off on a little bit of a tangent, but he likes to do his DMing style for Dungeon Dweller RPG is that he likes the players to change like things. Like you can use your hope points, you can use your points to kind of influence the story in many ways. And the description that he uses was like, oh, you can turn in a point, like a hope point or a point of luck, to like, oh, maybe you want to add a tree there, and then he'll like draw a tree really quickly, and then he likes to let the players influence
That's cool.
the maps and the stories and things like that. And so that's kind of what this reminded me of, because I added a bunch of stuff to it using my points and things like that. But it was a cool little.
What's interesting?
scene.
It's funny you brought that up, because like when we were designing this, so we have all these different modes, right? Like if you're a DM, you can lock players out from anything. They can just control their mini, or we have what's called, all play mode, where they can come in and move anything like that. We're like, is there a situation, you always think like, wait, is there a situation where a player is going to where you're going to want the player to mess with terrain? But that's a perfect example of that, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
they can add bits of stuff from here into the terrain. But I love that. That's a really cool GM style.
Yeah, and that is a good segue into kind of what some of the systems and some of the things that you guys have. And Eric is showing off one right here. This is called point of view. Is that what you guys call it?
This is like the first person perspective.
person, yeah.
And yeah, we can actually move the minis around in this perspective. I can also zoom out a little bit. And
So Reaper people know this model as Jacob Jansen. He's a streamer, and he's one of the people in the community. This model was made after his D&D character named Jacob Jansen. And so if you want to go back into first person, so it'll go into what this model sees. So you're looking at it from that model's point of view, which is really cool because sometimes when you ask a player, is like, oh, do you have line of sight? Or can you see that monster around the corner? And it's like, well, now you can just go into first person mode and be like, well, I can see it. It's like, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And how much we were using it the other day for, like, I was asking, how much cover do I have behind the tree? I'm like, oh yeah, right. I can just go in and look. Like, and you know, you full cover, half cover, 3/4 cover.
we actually do use it quite a bit in our campaign. Like, you know, can you see them or not? Go into first person. And then, you know, it's kind of a good way to determine whether or not you're going to be able to make that shot or not. You can always bust out the old rulers and kind of check from the corners of each of the cubes, but
yeah,
I find this is a lot more fun.
Yeah. And then what other features were there? You talked about the GM mode and things like that. I know one that just got added recently is that you can kind of group things together.
Sure.
Yeah.
And hide them and things like that. For instance, if you want to, like, I guess, select this marsh troll and then hide him to the players, I guess.
Yep.
So
Put
you
them
can see
both
how,
in.
yeah.
Yep.
You see how they're blacked out
We have
for his view.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So this is all part of the fog of war system. And Eric, I don't know, like, you can show.
I can
maybe
make it.
you can, like,
So yeah, this is how the player. This is what the player would see until the GM reveals.
Yeah. Like when you roll
Like
perception or something like that, and then it's like, oh, they initiative, you know, they showed up or something like that.
Probably have to roll pretty
Right, but
low
you
to
can
catch
actually
these guys.
groups too. You want to?
Yeah,
you want to show?
yeah, I'll pull up a whole thing.
map?
Let me save this real quick.
Let's save this for sure. Masterpiece. But
I
yeah,
did
the
that a
fog of
lot.
war system is pretty cool.
I'm not gonna lie. I did practice that last night before I came on. I knew what pieces I was gonna use, so I was able to bang it out pretty quick. But I was ready for it.
Nice. And I use the example while he's pulling this up, like a player walks into a room and then the DM asks them for an investigation check or something like that. And it's if they roll high enough, then you can reveal that there's a hatch in the floor or something that they didn't see. But if they don't roll high enough, you can make that not even appear as the DM.
That's right. And one of the things, so he'll show you here, like some of these are built into groups that you can
I did not
hide
group
and show
these
as
yet, but I'll do it real quick.
Some of
Let me
these will
switch
be in
accounts.
group.
I've got a good one.
On the fly.
But yeah, what we want to do is also add this concept of interactive terrain. So eventually you're going to be able to have triggers and actions. So for instance, you can set a point down or an area down on the ground, and if a mini goes into it, it can trigger an action, like a monster appearing, a door opening, a trap springing, like all these different things. It can load a different map. So there's all these different really cool interactive things that you'll be able to do and trigger. A lot of this stuff like fog of war sections, like if the door opens, your mini goes there, door opens, and the fog of war section drops down for the next room, right? So we can automate a lot of this stuff too.
I see.
All right, here's my Lost Mines campaign. My players are just about finished, but this is this is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, map that we've created.
Yeah.
Or that I've created. But this map, every single room has already been grouped, so I can go ahead and highlight like this whole area. So all these things as they highlight are different groups.
Yeah.
So if I want to go ahead and make everything except for the opening area, let me say. So what the player would see, I would make all of these dark, and what the player would see if they just started the Lost Mines campaign is they would see this. So they go in, they enter the Lost Mine. Spoiler alert. And yeah, so this is what they would see, and you know, as they adventure through, let's say they go this way. or if they take this little tunnel right here, I would go here, and then I would reveal this section to my players, and they would see that. And this is just the initial approach. You know, we will have like a line of sight option so that the GM can only show line of sight. We'll have the ability to allow the GM to require that his players play in first-person perspective.
Oh, that's cool.
So that'll be a lot of fun. If you you know, if you split the party, you're in trouble because you can't see what the other players can see. So a lot of the GMs that we've talked to have been like, "Oh, that's interesting. I like that." So like you might have an experience. Your player went down here. As the player, you're only seeing this perspective.
Yeah. It's like,
And that's what's
then you would
interesting,
have
because
to.
when you're, this is one of the things that when you're designing it, you got to sit back and go, okay, wait a second. Like, we're trying to mimic authentic play on a tabletop. Usually what happens is, you know, one character leaves. I mean, you know, the whole dark vision thing, at least one character has dark vision and can see 120 feet, right? And so, like, you're always seeing 120 feet. But what if your character was, you know, chaotic, neutral, or even evil, and didn't want to disclose that to characters? So because everybody's on a different device, right, we can just show each player what they would actually see, and the player can make the choice whether they want to reveal that information, right? Because normally the DM goes, hey, your character can see, you know, the, you know, orc on the bridge or whatever as you enter the cavern. And then everybody's heard that. So it's like when you're doing this and you have this capability, you kind of think, okay, well, shoot, maybe we can give some different modes to allow GMs different styles of play. So it gets really interesting when you're trying to figure all this stuff out.
It's that versatility in those options.
Yeah.
It's a reoccurring theme.
I've got to show this off because this was one of my most amazing accomplishments in here, I'll do it like this. This is one of my most amazing Mirrorscape accomplishments. This is the Death House.
Oh yeah.
And we actually we ran this at Gary. Well, not we. Brad ran this at GaryCon all day for 4 days straight. I think there's a total of more than 50 players from the Adventures League were able to do their first level in Adventures League using Mirrorscape. And so this is the outside view, and this includes all of the underground areas. But this is how our clipping planes work. So our clipping planes, you can actually just drag it down here and start to hide upper levels. So even the interior in this Death House, everything is accurate to the book. All of the encounters, all of the props, everything in here is how it's written in the book. And as they go up, you can hide and reveal different areas. Now, of course, when they first start, they would have just see the outside, and then the first level looks like this. And as the GM walks them through the adventure, they start to go up the stairs and see more and more. And I do have a version of this build with all of the rooms grouped together, so you could actually reveal it one room at a time, like this. But that's not as much fun as showing you the clipping planes.
Yeah. I mean, it's good.
Hey, show them how you can shove it down the dungeon down below the table.
Oh, sure. So if you go ahead and take this, we can actually hide the dungeon in the table. So when your players first sit down, they'll have no idea that there's actually a dungeon underneath. They'll just see this part right here. So when they first start, it'll just be this. And this works in augmented reality too. So you can actually push the whole build under the table that you're playing on the application in 3D mode or in augmented reality. So
yeah, and augmented reality, I wish we could show that to you here because it's just amazing. Like, it literally is as if it's sitting on your table. And the fidelity of the models, because reality, when you scan your table, it's also scanning the lighting in your room. So it matches the lighting in your room to what's on the table. So it literally looks like it's sitting there. And you get like all the details and the Reaper minis come out and all the glints and all this. It's just unbelievable. And you can actually extend your physical sets with this stuff. So we have people who have Dwarven Forge stuff and then taking our Dwarven Forge digital stuff and extending their physical stuff with the digital. And you can put it right next to each other and it matches up perfectly. And if you put like real minis next to AR minis, like we did a piece, Joe Manganello and I a while ago did a side-by-side piece, and you couldn't tell the difference in a little video that we did. So it's just amazing.
Yeah, I
can't believe Grant hasn't made me roll dice yet. I'm just trying to catch up with this.
What chat?
The chat, and somebody was asking about dice. So, and these are the Mirrorscape exclusive digital death saves dice right here.
Yeah.
Which are very cool. Let's see if I can roll a crit so you can see the little death. No, I'm not gonna be able to roll a crit on command. There's no way.
And
it's not gonna happen.
This goes to all the dice collectors out there. Is Nat 1 got him?
I know, right?
Is there going to be a bunch of
Yeah.
different dice sets and dice things?
Yeah, we're working with Norse Foundry.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're going to be bringing it. We've got a whole bunch more sets that are on the way from their collection. They've got so many beautiful dice. So what we're trying to do is, again, about the authenticity is keep the style of their materials, right? And whether it's metal or whether it's stone or plastic or whatever it is, maintain all those beautiful surface characteristics and how they roll too. Metal rolls differently than plastic, etc. So trying to mimic as close to reality all that stuff as we can.
Nice. Oh, you're looking at chat. Yeah. Didn't pay his
Yeah,
dice
I'm looking
fee.
at chat. No, we have this joke. Whenever we're rolling poorly, we say that if you want to roll better, you got to pay the Mirrorscape dice fee.
That's right.
Which is not a real thing, of course, but
there you go.
Oh man,
I love that the numbers pop up above it.
Yeah,
it's a good
it's gonna
really. Yeah, go for it.
I was just going to say we are working on another way to more specifically. This is a very the rudimentary introductory version of these dice, but we're going to have more options where it'll show and you can add your modifiers automatically depending on what you're rolling for. We're going to have different initiative orders. A lot of the VTT stuff is being worked on as we speak.
Yeah, the main priority was getting this stuff functioning first and getting a bunch of models in and then allowing people to start building and then things like that. And then obviously the future features are the normal tabletop stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah, we wanted to get like a really good visualization tool, right? So this is, you can obviously, as you can see, build all these amazing maps and have this one-to-one fidelity and authentic nature. You can network in together, right, around the table, around the world. We've got a chat system in there, all the basic stuff like that so you can play. So the next step is getting in more game master tools, right? Initiative, turn tracker, stuff like that, character sheets, content. We have got to deal with Paizo, so we'll be bringing all of that content as well as 5e content to the platform. We've got some other really interesting deals that we've lined up that should be done in the next few weeks that we'll announce. But yeah, so it's all about bringing the other GM tools to help you more efficiently run the game as well as bring content to the platform.
That's sweet.
Here's the Pathfinder beginners box. These are the 2 levels for the entire adventure.
Oh,
I put a lot of love into this one too. So I really love how these ones came out.
I like how you're building them like the old what they called like sand tables or like old dungeon tables that you would see at conventions.
Yeah, that's actually I was trying to figure out how to make these look real nice because it was difficult to kind of build them and then not have that negative space. First of all, it was a nightmare to figure out how to line things up. So that was the first problem I wanted to solve, was how to easily figure out where my grid is. So I made a large grid. I found out how big each map was. I made that grid on the ground, and then I kind of like started digging into that grid and lifting it up, depending on how many levels deep these different maps were, and kind of started carving them out instead of building them, freestyle. I had my grid and then I lined them up that way and then kind of dug down. Now there's something very exciting right around the corner. Grant did mention the Mirrorscape labs before, and we're messing with it internally, but we've got the ability now to place 2D images on our tables. So that includes your maps. So you can load a map, you can put it on your table, and then you can put the pieces right on top where they go. Yeah. So you just set the grid on the ground and you line it up with the same size of the as the terrain pieces we're using, and you just put them on top where they go. And it's it took me, I think, 3 hours to do something that usually take me like a day to build a very, very large map.
It's like projection.
Using that, it was fantastic.
Negative space too, right? So you can have other water and lava and like portals and things like that under wells. So you can use that, and we're working on animated versions too. So we're able to put an animated like bubbling, lava or pit or something, and place that under terrain. So lots of cool uses for it, including too, like you could just use that as your map if you don't want to build out the 3D stuff and use 3D minis on top of that, or do a hybrid where you build some of the map, like put trees in and like some of the campfire stuff and like that cool stuff, and then you don't build all the rest. So again, like you said, options and flexibility, right?
It's kind of like a pop-up book almost, where some of it's flat and then some of the aspects are 3D.
Someone asked if the D4s roll like crap, so I rolled 4 of them, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4. What are the chances of that?
That is pretty cool. Lucky. Go buy a lottery ticket.
I know, right?
And use
so I
those
guess
numbers.
they roll average.
I'm sure there's
1, 2,
people
3,
that do
4,
that
please.
for lottery tickets. They roll D20s and then they use those numbers as their numbers for that week or something.
Hey, that's a good idea. And by the way, nobody wants Powerball here in California, so I'm going to roll some D20s and go get a ticket tonight.
All right, sick. I demand royalties if you do win.
Yeah, there you go.
Finder's fee, I guess.
Kickbacks to Reaper.
I was going to ask a question about the labs thing. I know you're talking about projecting it flat onto the table, but can you rotate that like on a plane, like a 2D plane or anything like that?
So the version we have internally, go ahead, Grant, I'll let you cover it.
No, go for it.
The version that we have internally, what we're playing with right now is just flat on the table, and you can adjust the size and rotation, and you can move it around. But we will ultimately have it where you can first place more than one image. So you'll be able to place, if you want to put like specific words on a sign, or if you have like a puzzle that you want your players to solve, you can put it in a JPEG or a GIF or a PNG, and you can put it on the wall.
Yeah,
or like, if you want to
pictures.
differentiate these buildings, right? Exactly. If you want to
Fireplace
differentiate, and if you want to differentiate these buildings, you can put different, like, signs and
like a tavern sign
and whatnot. Yeah,
Blacksmith.
exactly. Or up here, you could have like, a symbol or something on this blacksmith. But you'll be able to rotate sideways. You'll be able to put it up.
That's cool.
We have, like I said, right now, just the first version is a flat map. But even that's just super fun. And this is Fendelin built by King Sax. And I love this map so much. I show it to anyone that'll look at it.
It's crazy.
It's so
one other
so
note
good.
on the too, what we want to be able to do is have you be able to draw on this stuff. So you'll be able to put decals on and draw on the actual geometry of the 3D stuff. So you'll be able to put up little signs or, draw stuff or indicate things to your players. So lots of cool stuff that we're looking at.
Nice. Hold on, sorry. I'm looking for a raid real quick. Just because we are going to start wrapping up here pretty soon. I have to go pick up my dog, so I have to leave a little bit early. She's having surgery, so I have to go pick her up. But this was a great talk overall, and obviously we can always check in with you guys whenever something new comes out, or if you guys got a new version, or if there's new models or a new feature, just hit me up and we'll come on and we'll talk about it. Maybe we can check in about 6 months leading up to ReaperCon. We can start showing off some stuff that we might want to do for ReaperCon and things like that. I think that'd be fun.
That sounds great.
Absolutely.
And certainly as we get in the collection from Reaper too, which we're looking forward to getting more of your minis in here.
Yeah, a ton more.
Yeah, and if there's any particular ones you guys want, we've got a request feed where you guys can request specific minis. We've got requests for features, all that. So we are very responsive and listen to our community about what they want, and we try our best to get it in there as fast as we can. We have a Discord as well. I'll plug it in the chat here, or somebody will, and then we'll see you in there if you have any additional questions. I know I missed some questions. I've been trying to build and show off while I read it quickly, so I apologize if I didn't answer anything. But you're welcome to join the Discord and ask away.
I think the links were provided to it, but you can always go to mirrorscape.com and all the download links are there as well. Download it and check it out.
Discord link. I think if you go to the Friends of Reaper section on the Discord, let me check that it's actually there. We have a Friends of Reaper section, and I believe the Mirrorscape Discord is on there.
I got deleted automatically when I tried.
Yeah, we don't allow links, but let me see.
It's Discord GG/Mirrorscape.
Here, I got it. I'll put it in chat.
Perfect.
There we go.
For anyone wondering, these buildings do have interiors. That's how good this build is.
There you go.
Look at this. Look at this.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. All the insides are done.
There you go. So all the links are in chat. There's the Discord if anybody wants to go check. Go check out all the maps that people have made. If you have any questions, go over there and ask, and all that stuff as well. So I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me today. ReaperLand's always a fun time. It's always a chill time. So if you just want to come chill and hang out, hit me up anytime.
Sounds good. Thank you
Yeah,
so
this
much.
has been awesome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for hosting us. You've been gracious hosts.
Yeah, and you can expect a lot more Reaper models that are going to be coming soon. So I would expect to see a lot more Reaper models heading your way on Mirrorscape. Yeah,
Absolutely. Cool.
All
Thanks,
right.
everybody.
thanks.
Sounds good.
We're
Thanks
going to be
a lot,
rating.
guys.
We're going to be rating Kana Minis. She's a sculptor here in Texas. She was also a vendor at ReaperCon. She's also a streamer, so we're going to be rating her. So go tell her we said what's up. And I hope you guys have a good weekend. Hopefully it's cold and getting into fall weather where everybody's at. But yeah, have a good weekend. We'll see you next week on the rest of Reaper shows and things like that. So bye.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.